Hi, in this episode of 5 by 5 Coffee Bite, I want to talk to you about what we call psychology of presence. Now, if you go through the entire plethora of literature on leadership, you will find zillions of capabilities which are identified as critical capabilities that leaders need to be exhibiting to be able to become and be called effective leaders. However, when I look back at around 4 decades of my experience in the corporate domain in India, overseas, and wherever I have been, I find that amongst the successful leaders, one of the competencies that really contributes to their success is their executive presence. Now, what is understood as executive presence when you talk to different people, when you go around, you will find that executive presence means different things to different people. To some, it may mean confidence. To some, element of being able to create a certain level of comfort. To some, it may mean passion. To some, enthusiasm, a certain element of presence of high energy. And to some, it may mean dynamism. Now, if you really understand what presence is about, and if you were to disintegrate the shell of presence, all of these elements in some quantum or the other would be present in the concept of presence. So why is presence so important, particularly in these times which are changing? And there are many reasons for it, but let me try and find out why in this changing times presence becomes very critical. Number one is that moments of distress end up creating confusion. People don't want to listen to other people. They are unable to see what are the changes happening. They are certainly in a state of major confusion, as a result of which they don't see the future at all. And therefore, you require a leader who has a certain element of presence to arrive at the scenario and give a semblance of what is discipline and what is direction. Unless and until a person or a leader has that element of presence, he would not be able to do that. And therefore, presence is critical. To establish patterns in certain situations where there is tremendous amount of confusion, to be able to see that pattern and make the other people see those patterns is something that an executive presence would make a leader capable of doing that. To be able to, let's say, from a cacophony, to be able to see the symphony, or to be able to regulate the traffic of thinking in an entire road rage of situation where multiple thoughts are prevailing, which is only leading to confusion, is what presence is all about. It renews the passion of people to regenerate themselves. It renews the presence of people to once again rise with resilience as if they were phantoms rising up, and once again start dedicating themselves to the goal. And that is what presence is all about. How does one therefore go around identifying or reflecting, or what does one do to develop a certain element of high presence? First is, the person has to establish a certain element of authenticity by virtue of his experience, by virtue of his knowledge, by virtue of his turnarounds that a person may have done. He has to build a certain element of authenticity. It is only when this authenticity is built that his presence will be valued by other people who see him as a leader who is effective. A certain element of clarity of thinking. Unless and until you as a leader are very clear in your thinking, your ability to impress others with your presence will be limited. And therefore, clarity of thought in your own mind as a leader is very, very important for you to be able to show your presence to the other people around. Deeper insights. Problems everyone can talk about, but unless and until you as a leader have gone deep into the insights of what the problem is, and you're able to narrate a story which people are able to see, and therefore believe that if they were to do what you are reflecting and urging them to do, it's only that point of time that your presence really becomes very critical. Influencing through knowledge, experience, or exposure. Your knowledge, your experience, your exposure should be of such a level that people believe you know what you're talking about, and you're just not making up some narratives for the sake of convincing them. And that is one of the ways in which you can build your so-called presence. And of course, it has got to be consistent over a period of time, because only when it is consistent does your presence get certain element of credibility, and that's very important.